I'm the global senior partner of Clyde and Co, an international commercial law firm. We have 27 offices around the world, and it's a very exciting moment, a great privilege for us here at Clyde and Co to host this celebration of the official launch of Mowgli in the UK. Now, according to this admirable book, which is my father's dictionary of proper names, Payton's Dictionary of Proper Names, Mowgli, an Indian boy in Kipling's Jungle Books, who is brought up in the jungle by wolves and is taught the law of the jungle by Baloo, a bear, and Bagheera, a panther. And I think all entrepreneurs have a need for a Baloo and a Bagheera, and I rather wish that I had had such when I was young, to be taught the laws of the jungle. Now, being a lawyer, of course, one looks immediately to books, and I have looked up the definition of entrepreneur, which is a French word. Anyway, the Oxford Shorter Dictionary says this is a person who undertakes or controls a business or enterprise and bears the risk of profit or loss. And I think the word risk is important, and I shall come back to that. But before I do, one point needs to be made, which is that business is good, which tends to be rather lost in the rhetoric of the day. It's not evil capitalism, it is actually the thing upon which the economic prosperity of the world depends. And I remember hearing about the great Raymond Clifford Turner, who was one of the architects of the modern legal profession here in London, saying to his shocked and stunned partners many years ago now, probably in the 50s, that Clifford Turner and Co, as it then was a business, and how horrified they all were. Well, we've come a long way, and I think that the legal profession, which is a great success industry, is a mass of people who now understand the importance of being entrepreneurs and are much, much more entrepreneurial than ever they would have been in Raymond Clifford Turner's days. And by and large, law firms are small, medium-sized enterprises, some much larger, but in the main small and medium. And the importance of these small companies, largely entrepreneurial driven, I think one can see, for example, from the Sunday Times Fast Track 100 companies. These are the companies of the future. They're by and large companies of whom probably nobody's heard. Here are some of them. Clinigen Group, a pharmaceutical service provider, sales 2008, 875,000, sales 2011, 35 million. Staff 48, extraordinary. So few people producing so much. Market, a financial information provider, sales 2007, 88 million, sales 2010, 432 million. 1E Tax, tax planning specialist, sales 2007, 3.8 million, up to 17.5 million. An energy consultancy, Climate Energy, sales up 4 years from 6.6 million to 30.9 million. All of these companies, which, as I say, probably very few, if any, have heard, are absolutely the heartland of business of this country, and they're all started by and run by entrepreneurs who, as the definitions say, bear the risk of profit and loss. Now, on this business of risk, one of my favorite anecdotes is of a party of very senior businessmen taken by Gordon Brown to China, headed by Richard Branson. And as part of the session there, they had an exchange of truths. Each had to say what they thought was wrong about the other, and the Chinese businessmen were asked to comment about the English businessmen, and they said there were two things that struck them particularly bad about the English group, which was firstly that they were hopelessly overqualified, which was quite amusing, since I think Richard Branson left school as I did at 16, and the other was that they were hopelessly afraid of failure, and the failure, the risk of failure. And I think that's probably quite a good comment for most of us. People are afraid of failure, and I think there are many examples of people who are not particularly American businessmen who tend to take it in their stride, pick themselves up and start again. Now, Clyde and Co, our industry focus is insurance, and so we deal every day with people who deal with risk, and it seems to me that an understanding of risk is absolutely crucial for entrepreneurs to respect it, but not to fear it, and above all, not to be deceived by it. And one of the best examples of how testing it is sometimes to properly assess risk is this single statistic of road accident death rate for children. Sounds a bit macabre, but it makes the point. The great children's author, Roald Dahl, recalling his childhood in Llandaff in Glamorgan in 1922, and I take this from John Adams' wonderful book, which I would also commend, Risk. He says, in 1922, I can remember very clearly the journeys I made to and from school because they were so tremendously exciting. The excitement centered around my new tricycle. I rode to school on it every day with my elder sister riding on hers. No grown-ups came with us. All this in the good old days when it was quite safe for tiny children to go tricycling and whooping their way to school in the center of the highway. But the statistics show that, in fact, between 1922, which was the time he recalled, and 1986, at the time he recalled it, whilst the motor vehicle population in the UK had increased 25-fold, the number of children aged under the age of 15 killed in road traffic accidents had halved. And taking into account the greatly increased population and the number of motor vehicles, the child road death rate per motor vehicle had, in fact, fallen by about 98%. Yet most people would accept Roald Dahl's reminiscence as likely to be correct. So what has changed? Well, what has changed and what reconciles these irreconcilables is levels of vigilance of both children and motorists in response to variations in perception, and that's what it's about, of the likelihood, the risk of colliding with one another. As perceived threats increase, people respond by being more careful. And I think it's a very interesting example of risk, how it seems to be and how on delving it actually is, and what mentors with their experience of the business world bring to young entrepreneurs is a real understanding of risk, what to worry about, and equally importantly what not to worry about, and how best to interpret all the patterns, the spatial intelligence. And the child road death rate is quite a good example of how difficult it sometimes is to analyze the real risks. I believe, and I believe very strongly, that entrepreneurial spirit is alive in most people, and many would love to run a business and need encouragement, and above all, they need to be mentored. In my view, the opportunities today for would-be entrepreneurs are as great as ever they have been, and certainly the need for them is greater now than ever before. With some exceptions, how to be an entrepreneur, how to undertake or control a business or enterprise is not something that appears in the curricula of universities or schools. There's a gap, and vitally Mowgli seeks to fill it. I would like to wish them all the very best in their enterprises in this country, and thank you for all coming here this evening.